What would you think if I told you that sometimes the most powerful way to make a man truly pursue you is to do nothing at all? No texting, no checking to see if he viewed your story, no asking if he had a rough day. Just step back. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Society teaches us that love must be nurtured through care, through action, through constant effort. But Jung once pointed to a deeper truth. The more you pour your energy into someone without balance, the more you lose yourself and unknowingly become something taken for granted in their eyes. The fascinating thing is, when you stop, when you pull your energy away from a man, you are not just withholding attention. You are no longer feeding his ego. And that is when everything starts to shift. Imagine this. You are standing in front of a fire. The fire blazes because you keep throwing in wood. But one day, you stop. You add no more fuel. Slowly, the fire fades. So does he. His ego was lit by your presence, your attention, your texts, your emotional validation. But when you step away, when you allow space to exist, that fire begins to flicker. And in that moment, he no longer receives nourishment from you. He has to face himself. This is not manipulation. It is not a game. It is reclaiming your energy that belongs to you, but that you have been giving away far too easily. Carl Jung once said that in love, we often project the unfinished parts of ourselves onto others. We pour our light, our hopes, and our belief that they will return what we lack. But the truth is, when you keep giving, you are giving away your light, not knowing if they even want to hold it. So stepping back is not to punish him. It is to return to yourself. And when you do, you begin to see the relationship for what it really is. Most women do not realize that being too available, always present, always caring, makes them invisible. Not because they lack value, but because they never give the man a chance to feel their absence. Think back to the last time you lost something, a person, a possession, an opportunity. It was in the moment of absence that you truly felt its worth, something you had once taken for granted. Men are the same. When you are always there, always replying within minutes, always fixing things, always worrying about him, you become predictable. And predictability loses its charm. Jung called this projection. You give away your inner light, hoping it will be reflected back to you. But the more you give unconditionally, the more you become dependent. And dependence erodes natural attraction. But what happens when you pull back? When you stop texting, stop seeking validation from him, suddenly the balance shifts. He starts to wonder, why isn't she interested like before? Did I do something wrong? Is she with someone else? In that moment, you are no longer obvious. You become a mystery. And mystery, in psychology, is one of the strongest forces of attraction. Think about the movies or novels that kept you hooked. It wasn't because everything was clear from the start. It was because something was unanswered. A space that pulled you forward, made you want to know more. Love works the same way. Your absence becomes the unfinished story, the question mark in his mind. And humans are naturally drawn to the unknown. However, stepping back does not mean being cold or pretending to be indifferent. It is not about disappearing so he panics. It is about redirecting your energy. Instead of pouring all your light, patience, and attention into him, you turn it back to yourself. You invest in your peace, your growth, your wholeness. And when you do that, you begin to radiate a different kind of energy, one that is no longer rooted in lack, but in fullness. Men in the world can feel this energy. It does not need to be spoken. It shines through the way you walk, your smile, the calm in your eyes. Jung once emphasized that we are not drawn to what we already understand, but to what we have yet to discover about ourselves. When you withdraw, when you no longer orbit around him, you force him to confront the parts of his unconscious he has avoided, his fears, his emptiness, his unspoken desires. You become the mirror, and in that reflection, he no longer sees a woman who caters to him, but the emptiness he has long ignored. And the interesting thing is that emptiness pushes him to respond. He may start texting more, calling, finding excuses to see you, or simply thinking about you nonstop. But remember, the purpose of your withdrawal is not to make him chase. It is to help you see who truly deserves your energy. If he only cared about having his ego fed, your silence will make him disappear. And that is a gift, because you no longer waste your light on someone who only wants to be illuminated without ever wanting to shine with you. But if he truly values you, your stepping back becomes an invitation for him to come closer with sincerity. This takes courage, because you will be fighting the urge to reach out, to be reassured, to feel important. But remember, that constant need for confirmation is what causes you to lose your worth. When you dare to stop, you send a powerful message. I do not need to prove my value. I know I am worthy. And trust me, that message speaks louder than any "I miss you" text you have ever sent. The power of stepping back is not about making a man panic. It is about returning to your inner strength. When you stop feeding someone else's ego, you begin to nourish your own soul. And from that place of wholeness, you become impossible to ignore. You do not need to shout to be noticed. Your silence, your absence, is already echoing in his mind. There is a strange paradox in love. Sometimes it is absence that creates the strongest presence. Have you noticed that the people who don't try too hard to impress, who reveal little about themselves, are often the ones who spark our curiosity the most? They walk into a room and without doing anything special, eyes are still drawn to them. That isn't magic. That is the power of mystery. To men, mystery is not just a seductive game. It is a primal pull. Humans in general, and men in particular, are wired to pursue, to seek, to discover. When everything is visible, predictable, and easy to understand, that instinct shuts down. But when faced with a gap, an unanswered question, a presence that feels both near and unreachable, they cannot look away. Carl Jung once wrote, "What is not made conscious will appear in your life as fate." In love, this means that men are often driven by what they don't yet understand about themselves. And when a woman does not reveal everything, when she doesn't offer all her attention or make herself too easy to grasp, she touches something unconscious in him, a space filled with silent questions waiting to be answered. Think back to the first time you read a great novel or watched an intriguing film. Wasn't it the need to know what would happen next that kept you hooked? Love works the same way. If you are a book he can finish in one night, the curiosity fades. But if you are a layered story, a journey that reveals a new perspective with each turn of the page, he will remain drawn in endlessly. Mystery is not about hiding or putting up walls of pride. It is the balance between sharing and holding back. It is the courage to leave space, to let him imagine, to let him fill that space with his own longing. For example, when a man asks you about your past relationship, you don't need to reveal every detail, every heartbreak, every argument. Instead, you can simply smile and say, "That chapter taught me a lot, but I'll only go deeper when I feel truly safe." That statement is honest, yet it leaves a door gently ajar. He won't feel rejected, but he will feel intrigued, wondering, and hoping to one day be close enough to hear more. Jung called this projection. When he does not fully understand you, he uses his imagination and personal experiences to fill in the blanks. And it is within that imagination that desire is born, that curiosity, and sometimes even obsession, begin. Because at that point, you are no longer just you. You become a symbol of the parts of himself he yearns for but has never reached. Here's something important. Mystery is not about absolute silence or fake indifference. It's not about disappearing just to make him panic. Mystery is a subtle form of presence. You give him just enough to feel something, but never everything. You offer him space to imagine, to desire, to chase. And that is what makes him unable to stop thinking about you. Imagine this. You're sitting with him, telling a funny story. You laugh. He laughs. But when he asks for more details, you just smile quietly, your eyes glowing with mystery, then gently change the subject. In that moment, his mind races. Why didn't she continue? What else is in that story? And even after you're gone, the question lingers, knocking on his mind over and over again. Jung once said, "What makes us crave is not certainty, but the tension between what is known and unknown." Mystery is that sweet tension. It keeps the relationship alive, always holding something new to discover. But why is mystery so important? Because it creates necessary distance. And paradoxically, distance increases connection. If you are always there, always explaining, always making everything clear, he will never have the chance to miss you, think of you, or imagine you. Too much clarity too soon makes him feel safe, and slowly lose interest. On the other hand, when there are still things he hasn't grasped, he stays. His mind won't rest, his heart won't sleep. He'll ask himself, what is she thinking? What is she doing? Have I truly understood her? And those questions are what bring him back, make him seek you, pursue you. See, mystery doesn't need to be manufactured. It arises naturally when you stay true to yourself, but don't rush to give every piece of who you are. It comes from the confidence that you are valuable even when no one fully understands you. This ties deeply into one of Jung's most important concepts, the shadow. The shadow is the part of ourselves we hide or haven't yet faced. When you are mysterious, you don't just create space for him to imagine you, you also make him confront his own shadow. He begins to ask, why am I so drawn to her? What is it about her that touches something unfinished in me? And the less he understands, the harder it is to let go. But at an even deeper level, mystery is not just about making a man pursue you. It is how you protect yourself. Because not everyone deserves to know your full story. Not everyone is safe enough to touch your wounds, your darkest corners, your deepest dreams. Mystery is the cloak of self-respect. It says, I will share, but only with someone who is worthy. I don't need to give myself away just to feel seen. And that, more than anything, is what makes you irresistible. A woman who does not try to prove her worth, who does not bend to please, yet shines with quiet mystery, she is the one no man can take lightly. You see, men are not truly captivated when things come too easily. They crave the journey, one that feels both close and distant, overwhelming and full of challenge. And your mystery is the map that leads them forward, the treasure that makes them search. So, next time, instead of revealing everything about yourself, leave a little space. Instead of texting constantly to keep him interested, let silence do its work. Instead of proving your love through endless sacrifice, let your mystery be the sweetest invitation. Because in the end, it is not what we say that makes someone stay. It is what they haven't yet discovered. And a man driven by that kind of curiosity will not leave easily. Mystery is not a mask. It is the art of just enough absence. It is how you give him a reason to keep returning, to dig deeper, to explore the world inside you. And believe me, when you understand the power of mystery, you will never need to chase anyone again. Because when you know how to keep a part of yourself for you, you don't just become desirable, you declare to the world, I am not a cheap book to be read in one night. I am a story that takes a lifetime to understand. There is a truth few dare to admit. Men often enjoy being pursued. Not necessarily because they truly seek love, but because being pursued feeds their ego. Every message you send, every time you make the first move to reconcile, every hopeful glance, all of it is like sweet nectar poured into his pride. He feels important, desired, like the center of your world. But does that mean he truly values you? Or does he only value the version of himself reflected through your eyes? Carl Jung once said, persona is the mask we present to the world. The persona is the image accepted by society, the layer we wear to be liked and to belong. For many men, that mask is the image of being strong, attractive, and wanted. And when you pursue him, you are not touching his true self. You are feeding that mask. This creates a vicious cycle. The more attention he receives from you, the thicker the mask becomes. The more you give, the more he gets lost in the illusion that his worth lies in being desired. And you, the woman who loves with all her heart, unknowingly become the mirror that sustains his ego game. But what happens when you stop? When you no longer text first, no longer check in, no longer lower yourself, just to hold on to a sliver of his attention? Suddenly, the mask is no longer being fed. He stands before a mirror, but the mirror has disappeared. There is no one left to reflect his illusion of greatness. And in that moment, panic sets in, because what lies beneath the mask? The fear of abandonment, insecurity about self-worth, an emptiness he's never dared to face. And you, by stepping back, by staying silent, have unknowingly pulled back the curtain. Jung called this the shadow, the hidden, denied part of our psyche. Most men are terrified of their shadow, so they need women who keep pursuing them, who keep filling that void, so they never have to face it. But when you step away, when you stop fueling the mask, the darkness emerges, and they are forced to confront it. You might think that stepping back will just make him forget you faster, but in reality, it often does the opposite. It's no longer about whether he misses you or not. It's about the fact that he is now faced with the collapse of his own ego. He doesn't miss you because of love. He misses the version of himself that existed in your light. And that version is gone. This is the turning point. If a man was only drawn to you for the sake of his ego, he will disappear when the mask is no longer fed. He will go silent, grow distant, and search for another mirror to reflect his illusion. But if his feelings are real, he will have to break through that facade. He will have to lower his ego to come to you in honesty, not as a game, but as a man. The power here lies in your silence and your absence. Every time you don't reply immediately, every time you don't rush to rescue the conversation, you crack the mask a little more. Each moment of space becomes a challenge to his ego. If she's no longer here to validate me, do I even hold any true value? But what you must understand is this. You are not responsible for maintaining anyone's mask. You were not born to feed a man's illusion of himself. You are here to live fully, to love with balance, to be cherished not for the way you make him feel important, but for the truth of who you are. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you pull back, you're not just reclaiming your energy. You are teaching him a lesson that true love does not nourish the ego, it nourishes the soul. And if he is not willing to remove the mask, then he is not worthy of your light." Remember, men may say they want unconditional love, but if that love only serves to keep them seated on a throne of illusion, they will never grow. Only when you step back, when you stop fueling the ego, do they finally have a chance to face the truth, to either change or to lose. Your withdrawal is not meant to make him suffer. It is an opportunity for him to strip off the mask and rediscover his true self. And if he can't do that, it's not your fault. Because love is not about sacrificing your soul so someone else can feel whole. Love is the journey of two souls, meeting not one soul feeding the mask of another. You may find it difficult, because your heart longs to be loved, to feel seen. But ask yourself this: do you want him to love you, or love the image of himself reflected through you? Because if it's the latter, then you are loving someone who only loves himself, and that is the bittersweet trap many women fall into. So the next time you feel the urge to chase love, stop and remember. Every time you feed his ego, you thicken the mask. But every time you choose silence, every time you step back, you bring him closer to his true self. And more importantly, you bring yourself closer to freedom. Let your absence become the test. Let the space you leave reveal what is real and what is only ego. And trust that a man who truly loves you will be brave enough to take off the mask and stand before you with all his vulnerability, all his truth, no mirror needed. Perhaps the hardest thing for a woman in love is not giving, but learning to be silent. We often believe that to keep a relationship alive, we must speak, explain, text, prove. But sometimes, true power does not lie in what we say, but in what we choose not to say. Carl Jung once said, "The soul expresses itself in what is not said." And in love, when you choose silence, you are sending a message louder than any words. Silence is not an empty space. It is a language. It holds subtle tension, quiet mystery, and plants a seed in a man's mind that grows into an unshakable question. If you've ever felt the ache of someone who once responded with warmth suddenly go silent, you know the power of that silence. It makes you wonder, what happened? Did I do something wrong? Why aren't they here anymore? To a man, your silence can feel like an alarm bell. If he's used to you always texting first, always checking in, always filling the silence in the relationship, your sudden stillness becomes a shock. He loses his sense of control, because suddenly he no longer knows what you're thinking, what you're feeling, or where he stands in your heart. You see, silence is not punishment. It's reflection. It forces him to face himself. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When you are silent, you force him to confront his own unconscious, his fears, his insecurities, his reliance on you for emotional validation. And though uncomfortable, this moment becomes an opportunity for growth. But remember, silence is not a disappearing act or a cold performance. It is not cruelty. It is a conscious choice. You choose not to respond immediately because you know your attention is not something to be given out of habit. You choose not to explain your silence because your stillness already speaks clearly. I am no longer playing this game. Picture a familiar moment. He texts you after days of silence with a short message, "What are you doing?" Instead of rushing to respond and keep the connection alive, you choose silence. You let the message hang in the air. You don't need to be angry. You don't need to block him. You don't need to explain. Your silence is the answer. You are no longer the woman who hands out her attention just to fill his empty afternoon. Silence is also how you draw your boundaries. When you do not react to disrespect, you are saying, "My presence is no longer something to be taken lightly. If you want to be in my world, come with sincerity. The beauty of silence is that it leaves a man thinking. A fight might provoke his anger. An explanation might satisfy his ego. But silence does something else. It leaves a gap, and people hate gaps. He will try to fill it with thoughts, with desire, or with actions to pull you back. Jung called this confronting the shadow. When you are silent, he has nowhere to run. He must face the immaturity within him, the part he has been hiding beneath your unconditional care. And this discomfort, this restlessness, can be the beginning of transformation. Keep in mind, not every reaction from him is love. Sometimes he texts nonstop or grows frustrated, not because he truly loves you, but because his ego is fighting the loss. He doesn't want to lose the version of himself that shone in your light. But a man who truly cares will not just react with anger. He will be patient. He will move toward you. He will seek to understand, not to win back your attention, but to truly connect. And you, with your silence, hold an invisible power, the power of choice. You are no longer trapped in the loop of trying to save the relationship. Instead, you stand at the center, calm and observing. You know that if he only came for ego, your silence will cause him to fade away. But if he came for love, he will move closer. This time without the mask. Silence, then, is not just a language for him. It is a language for you. It teaches you that you do not need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to say 1,000 times that you are worthy. Your silence, your stillness, your refusal to beg is the clearest proof of all. I know my worth, and I don't need your validation. This is the moment you truly grow in love. You are no longer the girl trying to prove her feelings. You become the woman who chooses peace over chaos. And paradoxically, it is that peace that becomes the most magnetic. Because in a world full of noise, the one who knows how to be silent is the one everyone stops to listen to. Space. A simple word, yet it holds the power to transform an entire relationship. Because when you take a step back, when you are no longer constantly present, you create space. And it is that very space that forces a man to face himself and decide what he will do next. Remember this: people fear emptiness. We are uncomfortable in a silent room, in an unanswered message, in a gaze that turns away. In psychology, this is the instinct to close the open loop. When a question remains unanswered, we become obsessed with finding the resolution. Love works the same way. When you create space, a man cannot sit still. He feels compelled to fill it. Carl Jung once wrote, "The unconscious moves through symbols, and when you withdraw without explanation, you become a symbol. You are no longer predictable, no longer the woman who is always there, always responding. You become a mystery, an unanswered question." He starts to imagine, to reflect, to overanalyze every little detail. Why did she change? Why isn't she reacting like before? Did I do something wrong? Imagine this. The two of you used to exchange messages every night. One day, you stop. No announcement, no explanation, just quiet absence. At first, he may dismiss it, thinking you're just busy. But after a day, 2 days, 3, that silence turns into a question. And that question lingers in his mind longer than any accusation you could ever speak. The beauty is that space not only makes him think about you, it makes him think about himself. He starts to wonder, how have I treated her? Did I take her for granted? Did I get too comfortable knowing she'd always be there? In that moment, he is forced to confront the truth. Was his affection for you genuine, or simply a habit fueled by the attention you kept giving? Jung called this the moment of facing the shadow. A man's shadow often holds the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being enough, the fear of losing control. When you create space, that shadow rises. No longer shielded by your unconditional attention, he is forced to choose run away to find another mirror for his ego, or come toward you with real sincerity. But here is what you must understand. Space only works if you don't rush to fill it yourself. Many women make the mistake of staying silent for a short while, then breaking the silence with a message. Are you okay? It's been a while. In that moment, you undo the power of the space. You take back the responsibility that was supposed to be his. Let him carry it. Let him feel your absence. Let him be the one to send the first message, to knock on the door of your heart again. If he truly cares, the space will become a magnetic pull. But if he never comes back, that too is an answer. And maybe it's the answer you need, rather than fooling yourself through endless giving. A simple example. You stop posting those subtle stories meant to catch his attention. You stop trying to signal anything at all. You just quietly live your life. And it is that silence that forces him to wonder, what is she doing? Where is she going? Who is with her? The space you create becomes a blurred canvas, and his mind fills it with color often more vivid than reality itself. Jung once said, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate." The space you leave is the mirror that forces him to confront what he hasn't yet realized, that he could lose you if he keeps taking you for granted. This is not manipulation. This is a necessary lesson in any relationship. If you don't value something, you will lose it. Many women fear that if they go silent, he will walk away forever. But think carefully. If your silence is enough to make him disappear, that is proof he was never truly there for love. He was there to have his ego fed. And is that the kind of relationship you want to keep? Space, in many ways, is the most subtle test. It reveals the difference between a man who comes because he craves being desired and one who comes because he wants to truly walk beside you. The first will run toward the next source of attention. The second will return, this time to fill the space with presence, action, and real care. And you, by letting that space exist, are taking back your power. You are no longer chasing, no longer begging, no longer holding up the mask he wears. You are at the center, calmly watching. What will he do when I am no longer there? Believe this space does not make you weaker. It makes you stronger. Because in silence, you learn to trust your own value. You stop fearing his departure because you know that the one who is truly meant for you will find his way back. And if one day your phone lights up with a long message from him, not filled with empty words, but with a real admission of fear, of change, of wanting you back, you'll understand something important. That message did not come because you said more. It came because you said less. It was the space you created that moved him to act. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she must face a powerful truth. Real love is not about holding on to a man, but about not losing herself. Carl Jung called this individuation the process of becoming an individual. He believed it to be the most profound journey a person can undertake, to separate oneself from expectations, from dependency on how others see you, and return to the pure, whole essence of who you are. And in love, individuation happens when you choose yourself over the fear of being left behind. Imagine a woman standing in front of a mirror. For years, she has been adjusting herself, constantly changing, trying to become the image she believes men desire. She reflects his gaze, his smile, his needs, until she forgets what her own face looks like. But one day, she looks straight into the mirror and realizes, this is no longer me. This is just a version molded to please. And in that moment, her journey of individuation begins. This path is not easy. It demands that you face your own shadow, the fear that if you stop giving unconditionally, you will no longer be loved. The fear that if you set boundaries, you will be abandoned. The fear that if you choose yourself, you will be alone forever. But Jung once said, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And that pain, paradoxically, is the beginning of your freedom. When you stop begging for his validation, you start to find it within yourself. When you no longer wait for a message to feel important, you begin to create your own meaning in your work, in your passions, in those quiet mornings when you make coffee and smile just for you. The beautiful thing is, when you choose yourself, your energy changes. You no longer emit the frequency of lack. You stop attracting half-hearted love just because you're afraid of being alone. Instead, you radiate wholeness. And wholeness is the most magnetic energy there is. Picture this. A woman stops checking her phone 10 times an hour to see if he's texted. Instead, she picks up a book, takes a walk, calls a friend, or simply listens to her heart. On the outside, these are small actions. But inside, it's a revolution. Because she no longer lets his presence define her worth. Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The greatest gift is not being loved, it's living truthfully as yourself. And when you walk the path of individuation, you give yourself that gift. So what does individuation mean in love? It means you stop waiting for him to change and begin changing yourself. It means you no longer ask, does he love me? But instead, do I love myself enough? It means you stop running from loneliness and begin learning how to let solitude nourish you. And paradoxically, The moment you no longer need love to feel complete is when you become the most attractive. Because men can sense that energy, an energy that doesn't depend on them, doesn't revolve around them, but shines from within you. It's the kind of energy they can't stay away from, not because it begs, but because it's free. Think of a woman walking through the city, not needing anyone by her side to feel enough. She smiles, her eyes glow, her presence is confident. People notice her not because she's trying to be seen, but because she doesn't need to be. That natural ease is what draws others in. And in love, it's the same. A man is pulled toward you not because you're chasing him, but because you've stopped chasing altogether. Individuation also teaches a powerful truth. Not everyone who leaves is a loss. Sometimes it is liberation. Because if a man only stays when you abandon yourself to nurture him, then his leaving is proof you've grown. You are finally strong enough to say, I don't need you to feel whole. I already am. And the most beautiful part? When you reach this stage, love is no longer a power struggle. It's not about who texts first, who stays silent longer, or who wins the game. It becomes a real meeting between two people who have each walked their own journey, faced their own shadows, and choose to come together not out of need, but from abundance. Jung once said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. When two true individuals meet, both are changed. And only when you have truly individuated, when you have chosen yourself, can you enter that kind of love, a love that transforms, not one that preserves the masks of both people. So let the space you create not just be a test for him, but an invitation for you to return to yourself. Let the silence you hold not just unsettle him, but allow you to hear your own inner voice. Let your retreat not be a tactic, but a healing journey. And one day, you'll realize you no longer want to be chosen, because you have already chosen yourself. And from that place of fullness, anyone who steps into your life will have to be truly worthy. In the end, after all the silence, the space, and the journey back to yourself, one question still remains. What is true love? Is it a game of pursuit? Of who retreats better? Who stays silent longer? Who controls more? The answer is no. Because true love, the kind your soul longs for, never requires chasing. It's not a competition to see who wins or loses. It is the meeting of two whole souls, each having walked through their own darkness, choosing to stand side by side, not out of lack, but out of a desire to walk together. Carl Jung once said, don't hold on to those who walk away from you so that those who want to come close can. This isn't just advice, it's a release. Because when you stop clinging to those who were only there to feed their ego, you open the door for a genuine love to enter. Look at the journey you've just walked. From a woman who used to worry, to overprove, to always text first, you've learned how to be silent. From someone afraid of space, you've learned to turn that space into strength. From someone who waited for external validation, you've learned to choose yourself. And now you understand, true love doesn't come from chasing. It comes from a meeting at the middle where both people arrive willingly, equally, without masks. The most important truth to remember is this. You don't need to beg for love. You don't need to chase or prove that you're worthy. Your worth does not lie in anyone else's hands. It has always been within you. And the man who truly deserves you won't need you to pull away, stay silent, or create space for him to finally see your value. He will see it from the start and cherish it, not because he's lacking, but because he's mature enough to love deeply. Imagine a love like that where you don't have to worry if you go quiet for a few days, because he trusts you and you trust him. You don't need games to hold his attention, because that attention is already there. You don't have to pretend to be perfect, because he loves you when you are soft, when you are vulnerable, when you are real. And most importantly, you love yourself that way too. Jung once wrote, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Real love doesn't ask one person to sacrifice their soul to maintain another's mask. It is mutual transformation. It's the union of two people who have each become whole on their own and who now grow together. So how do you know if a man truly loves you? Watch his actions, not his words. A man who truly cares won't disappear when you're silent. He will find a way to step forward, to show up, to prove his love not just with quick messages, but with steady presence. And if he doesn't, know this, it's not your loss. It's life protecting you. Because sometimes the greatest gift is not love arriving, but the wrong kind of love leaving. It clears the space so the right kind can finally come. And if you've made it through this journey, you are strong enough now to let go without regret. Ask yourself this: do you want a love that feeds the ego or one that nourishes the soul? Because if it's ego, you will always be chasing, always worried, always off balance. But if it's soul, that love will feel peaceful, free, and lasting. And here's the secret: when you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you no longer need love to feel whole, love finds you. When you know how to be silent, how to hold your boundaries, how to choose yourself, you radiate an energy the world cannot ignore. Remember, you are not a choice. You are not a backup plan. You are not a mirror for someone to admire themselves in. You are you, whole, complete, and worthy of being chosen with a full heart. And if a man enters your life and cannot see that, cannot honor it, cannot love you that way, let him go. Because real love doesn't need to be chased. It arrives naturally. No pressure, no fear, no strategies. Just two souls who have found each other and who become better together. Carl Jung left us with a profound truth. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. When you stop, look within, and choose yourself, you awaken. And when you awaken, you no longer need love to save you. You become love. And from that place, you will only attract what is truly worthy. Believe this: you are not here to chase anyone. You are here to live fully, to shine, to love and be loved deeply and truthfully. And real love, the love you deserve, will never ask you to lose yourself just to keep it. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. If this message touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss the next journey we take together. Your support means the world to me.